I think it's time for us to upgrade our computer. Hey guys, this is AJ the CEO. If this is your first time stopping by the channel, thanks for stopping by. And on this channel, we focus on tips, training, strategies, reviews, and builds to help modernize your media ministry. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. So on July 7th of this year, AMD released the new Ryzen 3000 series CPUs. Now, what's so important about this? First off, they are shaking up the industry with their price and performance compared to the competition of Intel, who's been leading for decades, almost a full decade, and pretty much have not had any competition, so the prices have been astronomical in comparison. So these new chips are introducing more power at significantly lower cost. So right now is the best time to buy that computer for that reason, but it's also the best time because of a new chip has came out. There are ridiculously crazy deals going on right now to where you can actually build a computer or update a computer for significantly less. And that's what I want to go with this video. Is I pretty much have upgraded our live streaming computer that's been having a few issues, but at the same time we were able to upgrade it to something way more powerful for very little in comparison of money. So I want to walk you through how I'm actually doing that. This is our current live streaming system where we're using an AMD FX 8350, a liquid cooler by Corsair, a old MSI motherboard that is not even available anymore, 8 gigabytes of memory, a 240 gigabyte SSD, a RX 550 graphics card, which I recently did in this video up here. We have just a regular Corsair case, 430 watt power supply, a DVD burner, and actually this UPS that is the same price comparison to our Decalink mini recorder, our capture card. So pretty much our entire system is around this price. Now really nothing the matter with that except for the fact that most of this stuff is no longer available. So the idea of what I like to do with our computers, my personal computers as well as computers for the church or whatever, is to at least keep it within 2 generations of what's going on. So that way, honestly, if I waited any longer beyond this, what is already here right now, everything in here from the CPU, the motherboard, and the memory, they don't make anymore. So if I wanted to do anything with this computer, at the bare minimum, those 3 items need to be replaced because they're not available anymore. I can't upgrade the processor to something else. If I did, I'm probably going to buy it from eBay or something like that, and it's not guaranteed to be 100% factory in the box, never been opened. But then also there's really nowhere to go after that because they don't make this processor, that motherboard, that socket, that memory anymore. So that's where you have to really sit back and think, is it worth buying something new or upgrading? And right now, because everything else in the system works perfectly fine, I just got to change those 3 main components, then everything else we can keep because everything else still works perfectly fine. And that's what I'm going to be doing. So what I'm going to do in upgrading this, like I said, I'm going to take advantage of a lot of the deals that are going on right now. So what we're going to do is come in here and we're going to replace these pieces with some new stuff. So what we're going to do, let's go to edit our parts list. All right, so the first thing, like I said, we're going to replace our processor. We're not going to use the liquid cooler anymore because the processor that we're going to get actually comes with one. The motherboard is going away, as well as memory. Now everything else we're going to be able to keep. The capture card, and I need to change this so everybody knows that this is an actual capture card and not a UPS, but everything else we're going to be able to keep. Same case, same power supply, everything. Now normally I would use the 2200G for this purpose. That's what I normally do with the clients that I'm building a live streaming PC for, or I use that in my portable system, the mini ITX build, which I have up here as well. This is the system that the process I normally do because it has the CPU and the graphics card built in, which saves money, and it does great performance when it comes to rendering, when it comes to live streaming and stuff like that. So if we look at the specs of this, and again, this normally goes for $99. The new version, the 3200G, is $99. And actually, let's look that one up instead of this one. All right, so this is the 32. This is the newest one. So let's look at the specs of this. It has 4 cores. The base clock is 3.6 gigahertz. It can go up to 4 gigahertz without overclocking. 2 megabytes of L2 cache, 4 megabytes of L3 cache. It's unlocked, so you can overclock it if you want to, and pretty much. And it comes with a cooler. Really cool. So again, normally this is what I would go with, especially since this is the new chip. But since this new series has come out, the older generation has gotten ridiculously awesome price cuts on it. So instead of me actually using this one, this is the processor I'm actually moving to. I'm actually going to the first generation Ryzen 5 1600. Now, if we look at the specs compared to this one, remember the 2200G and the 3200G had 4 CPU processors with 4 threads, meaning that it just performs like 4 cores inside of the processor. So the computer can handle multiple things. So this one actually has 6 cores, but it acts as 12 threads. So in layman's terms, it acts like it's actually 12 processors instead of 12 cores to your processor instead of 4. So you're about 3 times more computing power than the 2200G or the 3200G. Now the base clock of the speed of the processor is slower than the other one at 3.2 compared to 3.6. And the max is 3.6 compared to the 4 gigahertz that the other one. But again, it has more L2 cache and it has more L3 cache, as well as it's just a better processor in computing power. Now, it doesn't have a GPU built into it, but remember, we already have a graphics card already, and the graphics card is really meant just for handling encoding of the video. Now, because this processor is so much faster and it has more cores to it, it can actually handle the encoding by itself and not really have any type of performance hit, just because it has more cores to handle more processing tasks at the same time. So that's the reason I went with that. Now, I could have gone with the 2600, which is 1 generation behind. Like I said, I like to stay within 2 generations, but this processor is normally going for $180. I was able to get it for $80. That's the reason why. So the Ryzen 2200G for $80 with 4 threads and 4 cores, or the Ryzen 5 1600 for $80 with 6 cores and 12 threads. That's the reason why I went with that, because it was a numbers thing and you get way more power for that. All right, that was a long-winded way of saying that's the reason why I'm going with that processor. So let's go back in here now, the PC part picker, and let's go ahead and add that. So we have the Ryzen 5 1600. Why do I keep 1600? So even though it says it's 104, I was able to get it for 80. And even if you went with the 3200G, that's $99, you're still getting this one, which has more cores on it and more threads, for about $5 more than what you would have paid even with the current version. So again, that's a win. Now, these processors come with a cooler, so I don't have to go ahead and buy one. I don't have to spend any extra money for that, so we saved right there. Now, from a motherboard standpoint, I'm gonna get with a B450 chipset. The new processors came out with new motherboards, which are the X570. Those are very high in price, but again, AMD has said for I think 5 years that they were going to support the socket that this chip uses, so you can use older motherboards to support it. Now, I can go back 2 generations, but I'm only going to go back 1 so that it's easier to maintain. So I'm going to use the same motherboard that I used in the Ultimate Presentation PC, which is a B450, is one generation behind, but is compatible with the processor that we picked, as well as the new ones that just came out on the 7th. So we have a roadmap to go there. So say 5 years from now, we look at wanting to upgrade and they have some new stuff, I should be able to pick up the 3000 or maybe even the 4000 series of the Ryzen chip and use it in this motherboard. That's kind of forward thinking of what I'm doing. So let's go ahead and grab that. And also the same place where I got that processor for $100 cheaper, I was able to get this motherboard for $40. All right. Now from a memory standpoint, I normally only install 8 gigs because that's the system I'm building is mainly for live streaming and running OBS. You don't need memory for it because the hardware is handling all that. But it's no harm in getting 16 gigs if it's affordable, which is what I got with this. So this is actually the memory that I got, which I was also able to get at an excellent deal. So we went from 8 gigs of memory to 16, and literally 8 gigs of memory was around $39, and 16 gigs at the same place where I ordered everything from was $10 more. So $10 more for double the memory. Yes, we will get that. All right, so here we go. This is our new system that we're going to put together. So what I'm going to do is drive to the store, about a 2-hour drive, go pick that stuff up, bring it back, do a little montage of building everything, putting it all together, and we will look at the performance and see what it does. So again, this is kind of what I do to help maintain and keep our computers up to date instead of having to go all the way back and buy everything brand new all over again. So let's go ahead and cut over to the drive up, drive back, and putting everything together. All right, so there are your results. That was actually me running the configuration wizard at the church on the ISP. I was getting granted, I don't know if it was something that was going on there, but when I was here at the house, I actually got similar performance with just the CPU compared to the GPU. But either way, the GPU was rated to do 60 frames a second at 1080p at around 8,000 kilobits, which is perfectly fine, which is way more than what we normally do. And then the GPU, I guess it can perform better since the CPU is more powerful too. I was getting at 10,000 kilobits, but still 1080p at 60. So either one of those will work, but I would say that this was good to be able to do this upgrade, and we got better performance out of it. And just overall, now, even though the system is dedicated to only live streaming, it is pretty much capable now to do video editing on if we ever needed to have 3 people do video editing at the same time. So anyway, I hope y'all like this type of content. If you do, I appreciate a like. Consider subscribing and hit that bell, that way you get notified when we come out with other great videos to help modernize your media ministry. This is AJ, and we will see you on the next video. Later.